Hey everybody, welcome back to another Flash recap and review. This is actually my second time recording this because the first time my mic wasn't on. Anywho, this is about episode 10 of season 6 of The Flash, entitled Marathon. If you have not seen this episode or Crisis on Infinite Earths, please go watch those on CWTV.com and then come back here because we're talking full spoilers. Alright, let's get into this. So, this is a very eventful episode. Generally speaking, what I liked about it is, one, this gave us reporter Iris, like actual reporter Iris. She was tracking down a story, she was fighting off villains, uncovering a conspiracy. This was really well done. We also see how different characters are dealing with a post-crisis world, including Barry and Cisco. And there are some interesting hints at what's to come in future episodes. This episode kicks off with a funny scene where Jitters is reopening and they immediately get robbed. And the funny thing about this robbery thing is that this character who comes to rob them has been showing up multiple times throughout the series, and it's just a running joke now. In this situation, he walks in the store with his giant gun. The person working at Jitters is like, we just opened, we have nothing, we don't have money or anything. And then the guy's like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna blow up stuff. And he starts shooting everything, and then Barry comes in and saves the day, you know, wraps him up in some kind of sign or something. And one thing I noticed is that I think it was just him who walked in with the gun, but then when Barry tied him up, he tied him up with like two other people who I don't think were necessarily involved. They might have just been bystanders, so that was weird. So this leads right into a new title sequence, and it looked pretty cool. Legends of Tomorrow also got one, and a new logo actually. But I'm not sure if this is just for certain shows, or they're gonna do this for all the shows post-Crisis, because Black Lightning, Supergirl, and Batwoman all had the same title sequences. So I'm not sure what they were doing with this, or is it just the Tuesday shows? We'll have to see, but it looked cool. All right, so first thing we see in this episode is Cisco kind of freaking out on this post-Crisis world. How he's like mapping out everything. He's freaking out because now all of these heroes and villains are together on one Earth. Some villains from the past are back, but now they're kind of different. They're new versions of the previous villains they fought before. But on top of that, they have villains from other superheroes now. So, like Black Lightning's Earth or Supergirl's Earth. I think this is a really interesting way to shake up things and give us something different for the second half of the season, so we're not just going through the same kind of people. Of course, it makes sense because now we're on a new Earth, so of course there'll be new threats, which is something they deal with a lot in this episode. In this scene, you also see that there's a conflict with Nash Wells. Like, Cisco seems to be the only person that still has a problem with Nash and what he did for Crisis. Like, he caused the death of the multiverse, which Cisco says, but it was weird for me that only Cisco felt this way. I didn't see anybody else really giving Nash Wells a hard time about it, which I guess is okay. Like, maybe everybody else was more forgiving because he did kind of pay for it as pariah, but still, Crisis basically just happened, so I feel like people would still have some emotions against Nash Wells. But we'll see. Maybe some people are kind of better at hiding it right now, or they're just gonna bring it up later. We'll have to wait and see. We also see a scene where Diggle appears to give Barry Oliver's mask, which he left him in his will. I was actually surprised we saw Diggle again so soon, and they also didn't seem to hint at him being a Green Lantern at all. He wasn't wearing the ring, he didn't say anything about it, so now I'm wondering, was that just an Easter egg, or is that something they're gonna bring up later? Is he gonna appear later in The Flash or one of the other shows as a Green Lantern? We'll have to wait and see. But he brings this mask to Barry, and Barry looks at it and finds a smudge and thinks that it leads to this huge conspiracy involving Lian Yu and Mirakuru, but we'll get to that later. Let's get to the biggest part of this episode, reporter Iris. So we see that she's tracking down the story regarding the secret organization that they were hinting at before Crisis, and she's talking to the source, who reveals that they're called Black Hole, that they're responsible for this rifle being stolen from occult technologies, and that they're killing people who know too much or betray them. What I also thought was interesting about this episode is that Iris' story kind of follows a lot of the tropes of a thriller, I would call it. You know, like the stories or the movies where there's a reporter trying to track down some conspiracy or something, and people are telling her not to run the story, people are trying to kill her, there's some secret organization at play. Like, they follow a lot of the tropes, but I think it works here, and again, it leads to a really great story with Iris because we did not get a lot of that previously in the series. Iris then confronts Joseph Carver, who's basically the guy in charge of occult technologies. She mentions the gun being stolen, murder. I thought it was funny that when she mentioned murder, Carver's assistant kind of had this face, like he was holding his clipboard and he was like, kind of looking at him like, who are you? What? Murder? I thought that was funny. Like, I caught that. I don't know if a lot of people caught that, but I thought that was a hilarious touch. But of course, Carver tries to play it off like nothing's happening. He says, there's no story here. You don't have to worry about anything. You're trying to like brush her off and act like nothing's going on. But obviously something's going on. And Iris is not having any of that. She's still going to report. She's still going to tell the story because she believes the public deserves to know what happened. So I love this version of Iris, best version of Iris I've seen so far, where she's a reporter. She's going after the story. She's not taking crap from anybody. I like this. I think this is a great fit for her character. And then we have a scene where Iris released the story. Her, Camilla, and Allegra and Cecile are there reading, talking about the numbers, whatever, and Cecile's still kind of like on the fence about it, like, I don't know, this might still be kind of dangerous. And then we see the assassin try to kill Iris. They miss her head because Cecile senses the assassin there. They all duck, and then you see the gun shoot the wall, and it has this like black hole disintegrating effect, which is really cool, but also really dangerous because if that hit Iris, she would have been dead. So everybody escapes. Iris goes to check if her source is okay, make sure he doesn't get killed. So Iris' source does end up getting killed, but before he dies, he is able to give her his badge and a flash drive, it looks like, and she's able to escape before the assassin kills her. But she does shoot at Iris, and it looks like it grazes her arm, and when she gets to Star Labs, you can see it's actually really bad. Surprised her arm didn't get blown off, but anyway, she passes out, and Killer Frost, or Frost now, Caitlin, has to take care of her. She does try to check the flash drive, but it's already burnt up by being shot by this lady. And then we see this really great scene with Cisco, where he just blows up on Ash Wells. He just can't take it anymore. He yells at him. And again, I understand where Cisco is coming from because, again, this dude doomed the whole multiverse. Multiple versions of different people are gone. Doppelgangers are gone. And they finally confirmed that Harry and Jesse are gone, and I'd have to assume Jay Garrick is also gone, which then makes his disappearance in Crisis more impactful, John Wesley Shipp, because that could have actually been his send-off for the series. I didn't realize it then, but now I'm starting to think, yeah, that maybe it was his last time as any Flash character. Like, I think he might be done. But anyways, one thing that really like hit me hard, I'm like, dang, Cisco, that was kind of harsh, was when he said, an infinite number of Harrison Wells, and we're stuck with the one that killed the multiverse. That was like, wow, that's rough. And then Camilla even's like, what the frack was that? I mean, again, I understand where Cisco's coming from, and I do think there is going to be a redemption arc for Nash Wells. It was weird, though, for me that Cisco was the only person really giving Nash Wells a hard time about this thing, because this is something that affected literally everybody. I'm surprised more characters aren't holding Nash Wells accountable and giving him a hard time based on what happened in Crisis. So they identify the shooter as Camille Hoshi, who uses Starlight as her power, and her powers are ammo for this gun that was stolen. And basically, she is the new Dr. Light. Dr. Light previously was the doppelganger of Barry's ex-girlfriend. I'm blanking on her name, but if you remember, you can put it down in the comments. But this is the new version of Dr. Light, a completely different person. Powers are slightly different, but she's still very menacing, and I thought this was interesting. So this is what we're going to be seeing a lot more of now, is villains from the past, but now they are new people, or their powers have slightly changed. So let's go back to Barry and Diggle. They're on Lian Yu looking for this conspiracy, this Mirakuru, but Barry finds his case and there's nothing in it. And then he and Diggle have a talk. You see that Barry's still kind of dealing with Oliver's death, but Diggle is trying to tell Barry that Oliver died so that all of us could have a normal, happy life. So honestly, life is a marathon, not a sprint. You shouldn't have to rush into danger. You don't have to worry as much anymore. Like, just live in the moment, enjoy things. You have time now. And this is something also that Joe tells Iris. Both Barry and Iris learn that they can just slow down, that they don't have to worry about all these threats. I mean, there are still threats out there, clearly, but now they don't have to worry, they don't have to be in crisis mode, because Barry survived Crisis, so now he basically has all the time in the world, unless there's some other disappearance that's coming that we don't know about, which is a possibility. But as of right now, Barry and Iris basically can relax. They can have a normal life, as much of a normal life as they can have, because they're not in a rush anymore. There's not a big crisis coming. There's not a big tragedy looming over them, as far as we know. So I thought that was an interesting theme for this episode, and it does make sense because the episode is called Marathon. Cisco and Caitlin also have an interesting discussion post-crisis, where Cisco is really dealing with what it means to live in this post-crisis world. Caitlin asked him if he missed being Vi, but he's like, no, it's complicated. And so you see he's really conflicted, and he decides that his new mission in this new world is to go on an adventure and find out all the threats that are in this new world, finding more of these villains that were in his binder, and seeing what's really out there. While he's gone, he's put Nash Wells basically in charge, like to handle all the tech stuff and hold down the fort. You see Cisco apologize to him, and I thought that was a really sweet moment. So we see him take out this picture, and it's him and Allegra's doppelganger, which we'd have to assume is his adventure partner, his assistant, whatever, which would explain why he's so attached to her now, because also that version of her would be dead because the multiverse is gone. So it'll be very interesting to see how this relationship builds, and if he's ever going to tell Allegra that she's a doppelganger of his assistant or whatever the relationship is between those two. I think that would be actually nice, and this would be a great redemption story, I think, for Nash Wells. All right, let's get to the end of this episode where Dr. Light is sent to the West House to kill Iris, but it's actually a trap laid by Joe and Frost, where they have Dr. Light cornered, but she almost kills Frost. Iris is actually a hologram because the real Iris is at McCulloch Technologies confronting Carver. I thought that was a nice twist, and again, it kind of gives it that thriller vibe. She basically lays down everything, all the evidence she found, and basically ties everything to Carver, and she basically says, you are Black Hole, you are the leader of this secret organization. And he's like, yeah, you caught me right-handed, but I can just kill you right now, or your friends could be killed right now. But then Iris is like, yeah, I don't know if you want to do that though, because there's all these reporters right here, and you don't want them to see all that. So she does get the upper hand on him. And this made me realize that Carver and Black Hole are probably going to be the villains for the rest of the season, which makes sense. They were being hinted at earlier in the season, but also the way they've been introduced, like they've been around for a long time. They're very ingrained in society. They're a huge organization. So of course it will not be one episode to take them down, or even two. It's probably gonna be the rest of the season. To me, it makes more sense that these guys are a like half season long villain versus Cicada, who I think really could have been taken down in like 3 to 4 episodes. And then Bloodwork was done really well too. They didn't drag him on too much. I think these are villains worthy of being used throughout the season for the rest of the season. And then on top of that, you're gonna have all these new, well, not these old villains who are coming back with new skins, as Cisco said it, or new identities, new powers. So there's a lot of things they could do for the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to it. And now let's get into the post-credit scene. Before he was killed, Iris' source said the word mirror. So she goes back to McCulloch Technologies, goes to the secret room, and finds a mirror, of course, but she also finds the computer. So she types in this computer to try and find something, but as it's loading, she turns around, pulls down this drape, and there's a giant mirror. And then she's about to touch it, and then the computer beeps. She turns around, and then some hands come out of the mirror and grab her. And I knew that was going to happen. It was a jump scare, but it didn't get me. This, they revealed earlier, is Ava McCulloch, who we are assuming now is the new Mirror Master, who has, again, different powers than the last one. So we're going to see that. But it also looks like in the next episode, we're going to see a mirrored version of Iris, maybe like evil or a tougher version, or like her personality is different. I'm wondering how that's going to play into the rest of the season, if this is going to be a long-term thing, or if it's just a few episodes, if they're going to fix her somehow. That's going to be interesting. I do look forward to seeing more characters get their own solo episodes, basically, like Cisco, Ralph, and now Iris have gotten. I'm looking forward to that this season. I mean, honestly, overall, I'm actually really happy with where this season is going. Even though Barry didn't actually disappear, I do think this season is going in an interesting direction. The characters are given more justice in this season, especially Iris and Barry, and I am just having a great time. So, what did you think of this episode of The Flash? Let me know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.